everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Imperium Goddess Diaries. Today we've got an episode, it's really juicy. We're going to be talking about what to look for in the energy that you have towards others and when it starts to shift. So these are things that I've experienced so much in my time and I have so much knowledge on it and so much understanding. So I want to share this with all of you because I think this is such a great tool to know and to have. And also I think it's really important that we can identify these energy changes and these emotions within ourselves so that we know what to do with it and we can kind of move forward and progress without things turning shit. So let's get started. I had to change my outfit. I was just spicing around in there. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking about the ways that you feel towards people, or you feel that people feel towards you. A lot of tongue tying in there, but this is to the point where you can't have the conversation. This is kind of beyond what you can speak to this person. It's beyond what you can put into words and what they will understand. Now, when there's an energy shift between you and another person, I'm more talking in friendships, but this can be obviously in relationships as well. And even in family. Family is a little bit messier, but even any person, any other individual, any other soul in a meat suit right now, these are things that I like to look out for. When it comes to energy changes, they come pretty rapidly, but I feel like energy changes, we don't notice it and accept it as rapidly as they come. And when I say that is, you know when things start to shift because things start to feel a little bit different, but you will convince yourself that they're not. You'll convince yourself, you're like, no, like, this is okay, like where this person still like loves me, or this person's like, still supports me, or this person still, they're still like my bestie, or they're still, all these sorts of feelings that just say, no, we still keep to the story that we had before, because the option of loss is not a great option, and it's not something that we're always comfortable with. You get used to it in time as you start to ascend and elevate and get to a higher level of consciousness and just a higher level of person. We're always getting better. A lot of us want to get better, and not a lot of us want that. Not a lot of us are okay with just living the baseline, maybe even below, maybe a little bit above, but people are okay with being baseline, but a lot of us are not, and we're going to have to leave them there, unfortunately. So these are things that I think we should be looking out for when it comes to friendship dynamic changes and, energy changes between two people. So one of the major friendships that I've experienced before is that this particular person is stuck in another timeline than you. So you were in this timeline with this person, you were existing in the same sort of path, you were loving the same things, you were doing the same things, you had understanding of the same things, you agreed upon them all, and you've shifted, and so you've moved a different timeline. Now, when you look at that person, you're like, oh, I don't really like those jokes anymore. They're not funny, or I don't really see myself continuously doing these things anymore. I don't see myself participating in activities like this. I don't see myself liking these things anymore. And you kind of go, fuck, well, like, what actually do we have in common now? Now, this can be really hard because they can still be such a wonderful person. And a lot of the time they still are. And the inherent love that they have for you is probably still the same, but you're more aware of the shift than they are. They can definitely feel that something might be a little bit different, but it's not something they want to be consciously aware of. So a lot of the time we do ignore those uncomfortable feelings. We just kind of squash them to the side. But a lot of unconscious people won't realize that there's a distance. They might not even label it at all. So that can make it a little bit difficult. But when you used to be friends with somebody and, like I said, you were doing all the same things. And I'm gonna give an example. I'm gonna lay this down to partying, right? You used to party with this person and you just had a whale of a time together. Like, you had the best experiences. You had so much fun. You have so many great stories. You have life experience with this person, and it's in the scene of like drinking, taking drugs, doing whatever the fuck you want to do, like just wild. And so you shifted and you're like, okay, like I just want to maybe live a bit more wholesome. Maybe I'll dabble in it a little bit. Maybe I'll still have fun there. And they're still doing all these sorts of things. And you kind of realize you're like, that's our whole friendship. So you kind of go, oh, well, what do we do when we're not like that? And that's when you'll start to realize you're like, the separation will seem so big, because when you step out and have a look at the things that you actually had in common, you may not even have in common anymore. And that comes down to a lot of like their growth and your growth. You know, your growth might be far more accelerating further than theirs. They might be okay with being where they are for now. And it's unfortunate, but it's true. Another example that I like to have of timeline shifting is belief systems. This we've seen a lot since 2020. Like, belief systems are like rampant. Like, the way you look at someone now, I look at people completely differently now than I used to look at them before, because I'm like, our belief systems have changed. And I used to look at them like negatively. Now I'm like, you can believe what you want. Most people now believe what I believe, which is fine. Or most people in my vortex still do anyway. So the thing with belief systems is people are still stuck in a certain type of timeline and way of existing that they know how. It's comfortable to continue doing the shit that you've been told to do, the stuff that you've been ingrained to do and conditioned with. Why, for some people in their head, like, why would I try to learn anything else when this makes sense? So it's like the world people that don't question the world, or just okay with doing the bare minimum. I'm going to keep referring back to this person because this person is like, I've just seen them so much. So like, it's a great example. Just the bare minimum, believes the same things, doesn't like to rock the boat. And then here you are and you're like, oh, have you thought about this? And have you thought about these things? And I've researched this, and these ideologies start to now interest me. And they're like, why? Or that's silly. Or why would you look into that? Like, you know, are you a conspiracy theorist? Like, are you one of those people? And like, that just fucking sends me wild when people say that, because I have a whole other video, a whole other time, but conspiracy theorists are just, a lot of the time they end up being like just facts. I don't know. I've got receipts anyway, but I digress. The thing is that it's hard to really come in alignment with someone when they're sitting in a completely different timeline to you. And that can come with what they do in day to day and their belief systems, because as we grow, we are going to outgrow things that we inherently learned and understood. But that's part of life. That's cool. That's awesome if you're growing, because there's so much depth to you as a person, and your soul is so much richer when you know so many more things. You don't have to be fucking book smart to know so many things and to understand so many things and have depth. It's great. And then that leads me to my second or third one, I don't know where we're at, is when you feel like you can't connect with people anymore based on the fact that they're not as deep as you. Now, this is the one I just thought of. This is not anything that I wrote down. But like, when you try and talk with someone and they're just so baseline that the idea of kind of dropping into any sort of like intense conversation that rattles your world, that like sends you into a frenzy, like you are just so excited to talk about all these cool things that you want to talk about or you've learned, and they just can't meet you because they don't understand. Now, I've had a couple of these kinds of friends in the past before, and sometimes they actually will sit there and listen, and they'll go, Louisa, I don't know what you're talking about, but like, this is actually really cool. And what you can do is you can spark things in people and go, oh, like, maybe I want to start learning that. That's really cool, because that means that people are listening to you and they're like, oh my God, this is kind of interesting. I want to do my own research and have my own idea about these things that this person spoke about. But when they just kind of go like, oh, you know, really? And I've had this so many times where I just feel like a fucking moron for even opening my mouth. I'm like, why have I wasted my time talking about these cool things and no one is here listening? You just feel like the only person in the room, and you just like, oh, it's a shit feeling. Like, I get it. I know. But that's hard when you look out for that, when you realize you just have nothing to fucking talk about. That is a huge shift in a relationship with this person. And it's not a lot that you can do to help them. It's always up to them to figure out if they're going to meet you at your level. Because when I've said before, when you vibrationally start to ascend, you'll be losing people left, right, and center. They're just going to come off fucking flinging everywhere. They're just going to go. They're going to go. Like, I got told this years ago by one of my spiritual healers. She's like, she gave me a hug and she's like, Louisa, she goes, you're going to lose so many more friends. And I was like, in just the most like, oh, honey, like chill vibe. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, it doesn't stop. And I'm like, okay. Like, it was like a really hard pill for me to swallow. And at the time, it was really weird. Like, I had visions in my head of the people that I know are going to go. And I was just like, no, like, not this person. I was like battling in my head about it, but it just happens, and you just have to kind of accept it. So that's one of the other ones. But another one that I want to discuss with you guys, my last one is massive. And this is like, I'm going to make another video about this separately of what not to tolerate. But this, I feel like, should be in this video regardless, is if you start to feel judged. Oh my God. And you start to feel like you can't be yourself and you feel judged about who you are by other people, it's got to go. I'm sorry. Like, I don't care how much you defend this person. Like, there's nothing that you can say to defend yourself and this person if they make you feel like that you should be less than what you are. I'm experienced it way too much in my life to ever tolerate that. But when you start to feel judged by people and they start to make little remarks at you, or like, they're like, oh, she's weird now. Fucking, I've had that so many times. She's weird now. You know, like, yeah, it's not a good feeling. And you're like, and you sit in a room, you're like, I'm not meant to be here. Or you just feel so isolated because you don't feel the same anymore. You don't feel like you're part of the unity of the group or part of this person. You just don't relate. But you can fall away from people and it's sad and you still love each other, but it doesn't work out. But you can fall away from people because they genuinely just look at you like you're just not like you're like an alien. You're completely separate to them. You're weird now. You're interested into these weird things. You talk about weird things. Like, oh my God, you don't drink now? You're boring. Oh, like, it's the shittest comment. But no one's really said that to me, but I know people have experienced that. But it's just things like that. You just feel judged for being you, and that is just that's something you should never tolerate. Like, straight the fuck up. Don't tolerate bullshit like that ever in your life. Now, a couple of these things, this energy is really unspoken but understood. You know, when you start to shift timelines, when you start to not align with values. But these are things that it may be hard for the other person to hear, or they might not be able to receive it that well. You might not even be able to put it into words just yet. You know, you might not understand. But just know that friendships like this and relationships like this will naturally fade away the less that you resist. So if you do need to have a conversation with this person, if this person still really loves you and wants you around, then you've got to be really tender. You got to just sit there and say, hey, like, I just feel different now, and I just don't feel like we're on the same path anymore. Or you can go down the lines of like, I can't really relate to you anymore. You know, I feel, you know, we're not living the same life, and I just feel like, well, how are we gonna keep growing if we're on completely different paths? It happens. It's a thing. Like I said, some of these are beyond conversation, and some of these, the way that you'll be able to distance yourself easier is if you just kind of like just shut yourself off, like silently and gracefully float away. They'll do the same, highly likely, especially if they're people that judge you, if they're people who they're living a completely different reality to you, like they can't really like relate to you anymore, and that you're not doing the same things, they'll naturally float away. But a lot of people who live in those different timelines that you're still kind of like friends with, maybe like they're still in the same friendship group as you, you know, you just kind of will naturally drift apart. And if it's something that you don't really want to have conversation about, that's also okay. You don't really need to owe anyone anything. But if someone does come to you and go, hey, like, what happened? Then in my opinion, obviously you can do whatever the fuck you want. In my opinion, just maybe state like, hey, we're not aligned anymore. Like, you know, we're not vibing anymore. And most of the time they will understand. But if someone really does want you in their life, they'll put in the effort to do so. But that's their journey. There's nothing for you to do. There's nothing for you to force upon anyone. You know, no one is always going to believe exactly what you believe and understand what you understand. But there's people out there who will want better for themselves. And if you're on a path of ascending and you're on a path of growing and elevating and being a higher version of yourself, a lot of the time, the friends who really love you will look up to you and go, oh my God, I want to feel the energy that she feels. I want to feel, or he feels. I want to feel that vibe every day. I want to be on that level. I want to have that knowledge. I want to have that power. I want to have that, like, you know, I want to exert that energy every day. And they'll do it in their own way. And then they'll meet you, and you'll be like, oh, welcome, you know, welcome to my side, or welcome to the other side, welcome to the other world, you know? So yeah, that's a couple of like things that I have for you just to look out for in your friendships. in your relationships, this is really hard. I might have to do a complete separate video for this. In your relationships, it can be difficult because you're much more bound to this person. Unless you don't live together, unless you just, you know, kind of like just met, you've been dating for like, what, 6 months, and then all of a sudden, like, they have a completely different belief system to you. You can't align, you feel judged, like that, you can leave that. It is harder when you do live together, even if you're married. That's something that, like, you know, that was really hard because I was stuck in a relationship like that for so long where they're just like, we just didn't align. It took me like years to break up with this person, so I'm just like not the best person to give advice about that. But trust me. But yeah, so family is also like a hard one as well, because you can distance yourself from your family, or if you just don't feel like you belong there anymore, like you can literally notice where you don't belong, literally notice where your energy isn't well received, where you are not understood, where people don't want to understand you, people think you're fucking weird, people are judging you. Just think at the end of the day, would I want to be in a space like that? Would I want anyone else to feel that way? And the answer is going to be no. The answer is, yeah, it's straight away going to be no. So there's just a couple of things that just to take away, think about. I know that this video is going to find the right people, the people who need to hear it, because I've said this before, this is not really spoken about a lot in society. Like, we don't really talk about this sort of energy shift of like, you know, feeling like shit in friendships and not really knowing what to do about it. But yeah, I wanted to create some more awareness around this. So I hope you enjoyed my video and have the best day or night or morning or whatever. Just whatever you're doing, just have fun.